I'm not in week 11 yet. Here we go. Good evening, football fans. Big Al here on this Wednesday, November 15th, 2023. And welcome to week 10 of the week that was. We'll be doing this in two parts. Here in part one, we'll look at Thursday night football, the final international series game with the Colts and Patriots, and the early afternoon games from Sunday. And in part two, which will be coming up after this, we'll look at the late afternoon games from Sunday, as well as Sunday night football featuring the Jets and Raiders, and the Monday night game featuring the Broncos and the Bills. Plus, my Week 11 power rankings and the updated playoff races after Week 10. So with that, let's take a look at Thursday night football as we kick things off here. The Chicago Bears over the Carolina Panthers by a final of 16-13. The Bears are now 3-7 on the season, while the Panthers dropped to 1-8. Individual numbers for the Bears: Tyson Bagent, 20-33 for 162 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 73. Plus 6 rushes for 12 yards. His longest was 7. Leading rusher for the Bears was Donta Foreman, 21 carries, 80 yards, and a touchdown. Johnson, 5 carries for 18. And Scott with 1 carry for 16. Leading receivers for the Bears are DJ Moore, 5 catches, 58 yards on 9 targets, nearly 12 yards per catch. Cole Kmet, 5 for 45 on 7 targets, averaging 9 yards. Scott, 1 catch for 15 on 1 target. Johnson, 4 for 14 on 6 targets. Darnell Mooney, 2 for 14 on 4 targets. Foreman, 2 for 12 yards on 2 targets. Cairo Santos, 3 for 3 on 3 for 3 on field goals. Longest was 54 yards. 1 fun on extra points. Okay, Gill had 6 punts, averaging 46.7 yards. Longest was 62, with 1 touchback and 3 punts inside the 20-yard line. Gordon was the leading tackler for the Bears, 7 tackles in a pass defense. Edwards, 5 tackles. Brisker, tackles and a pass defense. Sanborn, 3 tackles and a pass defense. Sack, 1 tackle and a sack. Stevenson with a tackle and a pass defense for the Chicago Bears defense. For the Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young was 21 of 38 for 185 yards with no touchdowns or interceptions. Quarterback rating of 68.4. Plus 3 rushes for 18 yards. His longest was 8. Hubbard was the leading rusher for the Panthers, if you can call him that, 9 for 23 yards. Blackshear, 2 for 7. And then Miles Sanders, his struggles continue. 2 rushes, but minus 5 yards. Strachan was the leading receiver for Carolina, only 1 catch on 2 targets for 45 yards. Adam Thielen, 6 catches, 42 yards on 10 targets, averaged 7 yards a catch. Mingo, 3 for 20 on 7 targets. He averaged nearly 7 yards a catch. Hubbard, 2 catches, 16 yards on 2 targets, 8 per catch. Tremble, 3 catches, 16 yards on 3 targets, averaged 5.3. Miles Sanders, 2 for 15 on 2 targets, 7.5 yards per catch. And Hayden Hurst, 2 for 14 yards on 4 targets, averaging 7 yards per catch. Ed Higuero, 2 for 3 on field goals. Longest was 39. 1 for 1 on extra points. Jimmy Hecker, 6 catches, or rather Johnny Hecker, I should say, had 6 punts, averaging 45.3 yards per punt. 55 was his longest, 3 punts inside the 20. Leading tackler for Carolina was Brown with 9 tackles. Louisville with tackles. Jackson, 5 tackles and 2 passes defense. Barno, 5 tackles. Xavier Woods, 4 tackles and a pass defense. Booty with 4 tackles and a pass defense. Von Bell with 2 tackles. Gruger Hill had 2 tackles. And that's pretty much it there. Okay. Total yards, 295 for the Bears, 213 for the Panthers. Passing yards, 170 for the Panthers and 162 for the Bears. Rushing yards, Chicago 133, Carolina 43. Time of possession was 33 minutes, 31 seconds for the Bears and 26 minutes, 29 seconds for the Panthers. All right, Browns favored the Bears 21-12. Panthers 3 of 15 on third down, Bears 6 of 15. Panthers 3 of 3 on fourth down, Bears 1 for 1. Chicago finishes with 7 penalties for 44 yards. They were not sacked. They didn't lose a fumble, and they didn't throw an interception. Carolina Panthers had 5 penalties for 45 yards. They were sacked 3 times. No fumbles lost, no interceptions thrown, and both teams finished the game with 6 punts. Closing line, Chicago -3, over under 38. I took the Bears straight up and against the spread, but Chicago does cover the 3 points. So that ends up being a push. Okay, now to Sunday and the final international game of the season as the Indianapolis Colts defeated the New England Patriots 10-6 in Frankfurt. All right, we'll look at these individual numbers for the Colts first. Gard Minshew, 18 of 28, 194 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, and a quarterback rating of 69.6, 2 rushes for -1 yard. Jonathan Taylor, 23 rushes, 69 yards, and a touchdown. Zach Moss, 1 rush for 2 yards. Leading receivers were Mike Mann, 8 catches, 84 yards on 12 targets, 10.5 yards per catch. Downs, 2 for 40 yards on 3 targets, averaging 20 a grab. Isaiah McKenzie, 4 catch yards on 4 targets, averaging 7.8. Pierce had 1 catch on 1 target for 21 yards. Jonathan Taylor, 1 catch, 6 yards on 1 target. Matt Gay, 1 for 2 on field goals, longest 51. 1 for 1 on extra points. Sanchez, 5 punts, averaging 44.8 yards, longest was 69. 4 punts inside the 20-yard line. Fred led the Colt defense with 12 tackles and 1 forced fumble. Kenny Moore with 5 tackles. Buckner, Jones, and Blattman each with 4 tackles. Blattman also had 2 passes defense and an interception. For the New England Patriots, Mac Jones, 15 of 20 for 170 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception, 79.2 passer rating. He, of course, would be pulled for Bailey Zappi, 3 for 7 for 25 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception, and a 13.1 QB rating. Yowza. Jones ran 3 times for yards. Leading rusher was Ramondre Stevenson, 20 for 88, 4.4 yards per rush. Ezekiel Elliott, 13 for 54, 4.2 yards per rush. Douglas was the leading receiver for the Patriots. 6 catches for 84 on 9 targets, averaging 14 yards per catch. Ezekiel Elliott, 2 catches, 34 yards on 2 targets, averaging 17 a catch. Mike Gesicki, 2 for 22 on 3 targets, averaging. Hunter Henry, 3 for 21 on 5 targets, averaging 7. Ramondre Stevenson, 3 for 14, 5 targets, 4.7 on average. Booty, 1 catch, 11 yards on 1 target. And Juju Smith-Schuster, 1 catch for 9 yards on 1 target. Roger, 3 on field goals, 37 is his longest. No extra point attempts. Derringer, 4 punts, averaging 2.5 yards. His longest was 79, very impressive. 2 touchbacks and 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. Gottschall, Jennings, and Tavai led the Patriots defense with 4 tackles apiece. And a pass defense for Tavai. Peppers, Duggar, and Wade each had 3 tackles. Barmore, 2 tackles. Jalen Mills, 2 tackles. Miles Bryant, 2 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. And Wise had 1 tackle and 1 pass defense for New England. Total yards, 340 for the New England Patriots, 264 for the Indianapolis Colts. Passing yards favored the visitors, 194 for the Colts, 73 for the Patriots. But rushing yards, huge advantage for New England, 167 versus 70 for Indianapolis. The Patriots had 21 first downs while the Colts had 14. Neither team spectacular on third down, 5 of 13 for the Colts, 6 of 14 for the Pits, fourth downs, 2 for 2 for Indy, 1 for 1 for New England. All right, 4 penalties for 34 yards for the 5 penalties for 34 yards for the Patriots. No sacks allowed, no sacks taken by the Colts. The Patriots took 5 of them, losing 22 yards. No lost fumbles by either side. 2 interceptions for the Patriots, 1 for the Colts. 5 punts for Indy and 4 for New England. In this game was Indianapolis -1, and your over-under was 42. I picked the Colts straight up and against the spread. This now brings us to Sunday afternoon, and the first which we'll look at involve the entire NFC North, and we're going to start with the head-to-head matchup as the Cleveland Browns erase a 14-point deficit in the fourth quarter and edge out the Ravens in Baltimore 30-31. Individual numbers for the Browns: Deshaun Watson, 20 of 34, 213 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 74.8. 8 rushes for 37 yards. He, of course, got injured in this game, and it looks like he's out for the rest of the year. He would be replaced by P.J. Walker, who attempted 1 pass with no completions and a 39.6 quarterback rating. Ford was the leading rusher for Cleveland, 17 for 107, averaged 6.3 yards per run. I mentioned Watson, 8 for 7, averaging 4.6. Kareem Hunt, 10 for 32, and a touchdown, averaging 3.2. Bryant, 1 rush for 2 yards, averaging 2 yards, obviously, with that 1 run. Leading receivers are Amari Cooper, 6 catches, 98 yards on 9 targets, averaging 16.3 yards per catch. David Njoku, 6 catches, 58 yards on 9 targets, 9.7 per catch. Moore, 5 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets, averaging 8.8 per catch. Ford caught a pass in this game as well for the Browns for 2 yards. Hopkins was the 4 for 4 on field goals, including the game winner. His guess was 40 yards, 1 for 2 on extra points. Bojorquez, 2 punts, 44.5 yards average, 46 is his long, with no touchbacks, punts inside the 20, or blocks. Okay, Emerson led the Browns defense with 6 tackles. Greg Delpit, 5 tackles and a pass defense. Owasu Komura, 4 tackles, a half a sack, and a pass defense. Zadarius Smith, 2 tackles and a half sack. Ford, 2 tackles, 2 passes defense, then an interception. Myles Garrett, 1 tackle, 1.5 sacks. Okoronkwo, 1 tackle and a pass defense. Newsome, a tackle, half sack, 1 pass defense, and an interception for a touchdown That, of course, brought the Browns to within a point late in the fourth quarter. As for the hometown Ravens, Lamar Jackson, 13 of 23, 223 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, quarterback rating of 67.8. He was also the leading rusher for the Ravens, 8 for 51 on 5.1 per tote. Mitchell, 3 rushes, 34 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 11.3 per rush. Gus Edwards, 11 rushes, 24 yards, and a touchdown, averaging 2.2. Hill, 2 carries, 7 yards, 3.5 yards per run. Zay Flowers was Baltimore's top receiver, 5 catches, 73 yards on 6 targets. Mark Andrews, 2 for 44 on 4 targets, 22 yards average. Odell Beckham Jr. made 1 catch on 2 targets for 40 yards, and that 1 catch went for a TD. Mitchell, 1 for 32 on 2 targets. Bateman, 2 for 25 on 4 targets, plus catches for Isaiah Likely and Gus Edwards. Justin Tucker, 1 for 2 on field goals. Long was 37, 4 for 4 on extra points. Stout, 3 punts, 53.7 average. Long was 59, 2 touchbacks, and 1 punt inside the 20-yard line. Okay, Smith, 14 tackles, paced Baltimore's defense. Kyle Hamilton, 8 tackles, 2 passes defense, and an interception for a touchdown. Patrick Queen has 6 tackles. Owe had 4 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. Pierce, 3 tackles. Humphrey, 3 tackles. Clowney, 2 tackles and 2 sacks. Stone, 2 tackles and 1 pass defense. And Matabuke, 1 tackle and a sack for the Ravens. Okay. Total yards, 373 for Cleveland, 306 for Baltimore. Passing yards, 200 for the Ravens and 195 for the Browns. Rush yards favor Cleveland, 178 to 106. Time of possession, 34 minutes, 15 seconds for the Browns. 25 minutes, 45 seconds for the Ravens. First downs, 24 for Cleveland and 17 for Baltimore. Third downs, 8 of 16 for the Browns, 2 of 8 for the Ravens. Fourth downs, 1 for 2 for the Browns, and no fourth down plays for the Ravens. There were 17 total penalties in this game. That's 17 accepted penalties. 10 by the Browns for 55 yards and 7 by the Ravens for 64. Browns took 4 sacks, averaging or losing 18 yards. The Ravens took 3 sacks, losing 23 yards. Cleveland had 1 fumble loss, 1 interception, which went for a touchdown, and 2 punts. Baltimore had no fumbles lost, 2 interceptions thrown, 1 returned for a touchdown, and 3 punts. Closing line is Baltimore, -6. Under is 39. I took the Ravens straight up and against the spread, so I lost both those picks. Okay, staying on this AFC North theme, the Cincinnati Bengals were beat at home by the upstart Houston Texans, 30-27. As the Bengals see their 4-game losing streak snapped, now 5-4, and the Texans join Cincinnati at 5-4. MVP type performer CJ Stroud, the rookie, was 23 of 39 for 356 with 1 touchdown and an interception, 87.1 passer rating, plus 2 rushes for 8 yards and a rushing touchdown, 4 yards per run. All right. Devin Singletary, 30 rushes, 150 yards, and a touchdown, and even 5 yards per tote. Hutchinson, 1 for 17. Tank Dell, 1 for 13. And we mentioned C.J. Stroud rushing numbers. Brown was the leading receiver for the Texans, 7 for 172 and 8 targets, averaging 24.6 yards per catch. Dalton Schultz, 4 for 71 on 6 targets, averaging 17.8. Tank Dell, 6 for 56 and a touchdown on 14 targets, averaging 9.3. Netty, 2 catches, 25 yards on 2 targets. Woods, 1 for 15 on 3 targets. Singletary, 1 for 11 on 2 targets. Boone, 2 for 6 on 3 targets. Mendola, who was in as the place kicker for the Texans for the Fairbairn, 3 for 3 on field goals. Longest was 45, 3 for 3 on extra points. Johnston, 4 punts, averaging 42.3 yards. Longest was 47, 2 punts inside the 20-yard line. Houston Carson led the Texans with 7 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Sheldon Rankins, 5 tackles, 3 sacks, and 1 forced fumble. Thomas and Perryman, each with 4 tackles. Cashman, 3 tackles. Granard, 3 tackles and a sack. Harris, 2 tackles. Griffin, 2 tackles, 1 pass defense, and 1 interception. For the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Burrow, 27 of 40 for 347, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 90.3 passer rating. Joe Mixon, 11 rushes, 46 yards, and a touchdown, 4.2 yards per run. Joe Burrow, 5 for 20, 4 yards per run. Leading receivers were Jamar Chase, 5 for 124 and a touchdown on 6 targets, averaging 24.8 yards per catch. Tyler Boyd, 8 for 117 on 12 targets, averaging 14.6. Irwin, 2 catches, 54 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets, 27 per catch. Hudson, 6 for 33 on 7 targets, 5.5 per catch. Drew Sample, 2 for 12 yards on 3 targets. Irv Smith, 1 catch for 6 yards on 1 target, both average 6 yards per catch. Okay, McPherson, 2 for 2 on field goals, longest was 50, 3 for 3 on extra points. Robbins, 5 punts, 51.8 average, 56 was as long, 2 punts inside the 20. Taylor Britt led the Cincinnati defense with 7 tackles, 2 passes defense, and an interception. Hilton, 6 tackles. Awuzie, 5 tackles, and a pass defense. Jermaine Pratt, 4 tackles. Hill, 4 tackles, 2 passes defense. Sample, 3 tackles. Wilson and Hendrickson each had 2 tackles and half a sack. Wilson also had a forced fumble and a pass defense for the Bengals. Total yards, 4. That's not a typo, folks. 544 yards for the Texans, 380 for the Bengals. Passing and rushing both favored the Texans. 356 to 314 passing, 188 to 66 rushing. Sorry. First downs, 28 for Houston, 20 for Cincinnati. Third downs, 4 for 13 for the Texans, 6 of 14 for the Bengals. Fourth down for the Texans, and 1 for 1 for the Bengals. All right, 7 penalties for Houston for 50 yards. Only took 1 sack, lost no yards. 2 fumbles lost, 1 interception thrown, 4 punts. Cincinnati, 4 penalties, 63 yards. They were sacked 4 times, losing 33. No fumbles lost, 2 interceptions thrown, and 5 punts. Closing line, Cincinnati -5, over under 45.5. I picked the Bengals straight up and against the spread. And again, I lost picks. All right, closing out our tour of the AFC North, and I did go out of order, and that's the Green Bay Packers losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers 23-19. Individual numbers for the Steelers: Kenny Pickett, 14 of 23, 126, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 75.6 passer rating. 4 rushes added for 16 yards, 4 yards per run. Warren, leading rusher for the Steelers, 15 for 101 and a touchdown, averaging 6.7 a tote. Najee Harris, 16 for 82 on a touchdown, averaging 5.1. Austin for 6 yards. Pickens was the leading receiver for the Steel Crew, 3 for 45 yards, 4 targets, averaging 15 a catch. Hayward, 3 for 32 on 4 targets, averaging 10.7. Deontay Johnson, 1 for 17 on 4 targets. Najee Harris, 3 for 14 on 4 targets, averaged 4.7 yards a catch. Warren, 2 for 9 yards on 4 targets, 4.5 yards a grab. Washington, 1 catch, 6 yards, 1 target. Austin, 1 catch, 3 yards, 1 target. Boswell, 3 for 3 on field goals, 49, 2 for 2 on extra points. Harvin, 5 punts, 44.8 yards per punt. 56 was his longest with 3 inside the 20. Leading tackler was TJ Watt, 7 tackles and a sack. Roberts, 6 tackles and a pass defense. Keanu Neal, 4 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Kazee, 4 tackles, 1 pass defense, and an interception as well. Benton, 3 tackles and a pass defense. Porter, 3 tackles, likewise with Pierre. Riley with 2 tackles. Hayward with 2 tackles. Robinson with 2 tackles. Patrick Peterson, 2 tackles, and a pass defense for the Steeler defense. Okay, total yards, 399 for the Packers, 324 for the Steelers. Total yards, or rather passing yards, 283 Green Bay and 119 for Pittsburgh. Rush yards, 205 for the Steelers, 116 for the Packers. First downs favored the home team, 21 for the Steelers, 17 for the Packers. Third downs, 8 of 16 for Green Bay, 4 of 13 for Pittsburgh. Fourth downs, 2 for 2 Packers, 1 for 1 Steelers. Penalties, 5 for 32 for the Packers, 1 sack taken for 6 yards. No fumbles lost, 2 interceptions, and 4 punts. And for the Steelers, 3 penalties for 23 yards, 1 sack taken for 7 yards. No fumbles lost or interceptions, and 5 punts. All right. Oh, that was not what I meant to do. This is what I meant to do. Here we go. Okay, closing line. Pittsburgh, 3 over under 38.5. I took the Steelers straight up and against the spread. So that's our tour of the NFC North. What we're going to look at is the Minnesota Vikings, who were dominant half, but then had to hang on in the second half to beat the New Orleans Saints 27-19. All right, individual numbers for Minnesota. Josh Dobbs, 23 of 34, 268 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 8 rushes, 44 yards, and a rushing touchdown. He had a passer rating of 101.1. Leading rusher was Chandler, 15 for 45, and a touchdown, 3 yards per run. Matheson, 8 for 27, 3.4 yards per run. Okay, leading receiver was TJ Hawkinson, and he had a day. 11 catches, 134 yards, and a touchdown on 15 targets, 12.2 yards per catch. Addison, 4 grabs, 69 yards, 7 targets, 17.3 yards a catch. Powell, 4 catches, 35 yards, 5 targets, 8.8 yards per catch. Naylor had a catch for 16 on 1 target. Hunt, 2 catches, 8 yards on 2 targets. Matheson, 1 catch, 6 yards on 2 targets. Greg Joseph, 2 for 3 on field goals. Longest was 40 for 3 on extra points. And Wright with 6 punts, 43 yards average, longest 50, and 3 punts inside the 20. Metellus led the Vikings defense with 5 tackles. Harrison Smith, a.k.a. the Assassin, he had 4 tackles. Hicks, Phillips, Pace, Wanham, and Murphy, each with 3 tackles. Wanham added a sack. Murphy added 3 passes defense and an interception. Danielle Hunter, 2 tackles and a sack. Blackman, 2 tackles, 2 passes defense, and an interception. For the New Orleans Saints, Derek Carr started the game. He was 13 of 18 for 110 yards, no touchdowns, interceptions, 87.7 passer rating, 1 rush for 10 yards. He, of course, did get injured, and he would be replaced by Jameis Winston. 13 of 25, 122 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 59.1 passer rating. Alvin Kamara was the leading rusher for Nolans. 9 for 42 yards, 4.6 yards per run. Leading receiver is Chris Olave. 6 catches, 94 yards, and a touchdown on 9 targets, 15.7 yards per catch. A.T. Perry, 2 catches, 38 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets, averaged 19 yards a catch. Kamara, 7 for 33 on 7 targets, 4.7 a catch. Rashid Shaheed, 5 catches, 24 yards, 9 targets, 4.8 yards per catch. Taysom Hill, 2 catches, 17 yards, 4 targets, 8.5 yards per catch. Michael Thomas limited to just 1 catch on 2 targets for 9 yards. Groupie, 1 for 1 on field goals, long 8, no extra points. Headley, 6 punts, 46.5 average, long was 48, 1 touchback, and 1 punt inside the 20. Leading defensive leaders include Tyrann Mathieu, 7 tackles. Davis with 6 tackles and a sack. May, 6 tackles. Adebo, 5 tackles, 2 passes defense. Taylor, 4 tackles, 2 passes defense. Warner, 3 tackles. Roach, 3 tackles, pass defense. And Marshawn Lattimore with 3 tackles. Cameron Jordan, meanwhile, had 2 tackles. All right. Total yards. If here. Got them. 388 yards for the Vikings, 280 for the Saints. Passing and rushing yards both favored Minnesota. Passing yards for 263 to 215 for the Vikings. Rushing is 125 to 65 for the Vikings. First downs also favored Minnesota, 23 to 16. Time of possession, seconds for the Vikings, and 26-4 for the Saints. Third downs, 4 of 14 for New Orleans, 6 of 15 for Minnesota. Fourth downs, 2 for 2 New Orleans, none for Minnesota. 14 total penalties in this game, 9 accepted by the Saints for 74, 5 for 35 for the Vikings. New Orleans took 3 sacks, losing 17 yards. Minnesota 1 sack, losing 5. No fumbles lost on either side. 2 interceptions thrown by the Saints, and each team had 6 punts. Closing line is New Orleans -3, over-unders 40.5. I took the Vikings, both straight up and against the spread. Okay, what was supposed to be the game of the week ended up being a laugher as the San Francisco 49ers torched the Jacksonville Jaguars 34-3, and they end their 3-game losing streak in a big way. The loss also snaps Jacksonville's 5-game winning streak. Brock Purdy for the Niners was 19 of 26 for 296 yards with 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, near perfect passer rating of 148.9. Sam Darnold came in garbage time, went 1 for 2 for 6 yards and a 56.3 passer rating. As far as rushing goes, Christian McCaffrey, otherwise known as Run CMC, 16 rushes, 95 yards, 5.9 yards per run. Deebo Samuel, 3 for 29 and a touchdown, 9.7 per run. Elijah Mitchell, 8 for 23, 2.9 a run. Sam Darnold, 3 rushes for -3 yards. Okay, now to the receivers. George Kittle, 3 catches, 116, and a touchdown on 4 targets, 38.7 average. Brandon Ayuk, 3 catches, 55 yards, and a touchdown on 3 targets, 18.3 average. Christian McCaffrey, 6 for 47 on 10 targets, 7.8 average. Deebo Samuel, 4 catches, 30 yards, 4 targets, 7.5 yards per catch. Cal Juszczyk, 2 catches, 26 yards, and a touchdown on 3 targets, 13 yards per catch. Bell, 1 catch for 20 yards on 1 target. Jennings, 1 catch for 8 yards on 2 targets. Jake Moody, the rookie kicker, was 2 for 2 on field goals. 39 was his long, 4 for 4 on extra points. Wisnowski, 3 punts, 47 average, long was 56, 2 punts inside the 20-yard line. Leaders on defense include Dre Greenlaw, 6 tackles. Hufanga, 5 tackles, 1 pass defense, and 1 interception. Lenore, 4 tackles. Warner, 4 tackles, a pass defense, and an interception. Javon Hargrave, 3 tackles, 1.5 sacks. Thomas, 3 tackles, 1 forced fumble. Bosa, 2 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble, and 1 pass defense. Armstead, 2 tackles and half a sack, and Ward with 2 tackles and a pass defense. For Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence, 7-9, 185, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Bad day for him. Quarterback rating of 48.8. CJ Beathard, 1 for 2 on 5 yards. 1 for 2 for 5 yards, rather. 56.3 passer rating. Christian Kirk also attempted a pass in this game, didn't complete it. QB rating 39.6. Leading rusher is Travis Etienne, 9 for 35 yards, 3.9 yards per run. Johnson, 3 for 12, 4 yards per run. Trevor Lawrence, 2 for 7, 3.5 yards average. And Tank Bigsby, 3 for 5 yards, 1.6 average. Christian Kirk, far and away the leading receiver for the Jaguars. 6 catches, 104, 11 targets, averaging 17.3 yards per catch. Johnson, 2 for 28 on 2 targets, 13 yards per catch. Calvin Ridley, 2 for 20 yards on 3 targets, 10 yards per catch. Jones, 2 for 17, 2 targets, 8.5 yards per catch. Evan Ingram, 4 for 12 yards, 7 targets, 3 yards per catch. And ETN, 2 for 9 yards on 4 targets, 4.5 yards per catch. Brandon McManus, 1 for 1 on field goals. The one he hit was from 37. And no extra points. Cook with 5 punts, 53.6 average. Long was 62 and 1 touchback. All right, leading the way on defense, you've got Lloyd with 7 tackles. Olakun, 6 tackles, 2 sacks. Wingard, 3 tackles. Jenkins, 3 tackles, and a pass defense. Herndon, 3 tackles. Cisco, 2 tackles. Campbell, 2 tackles. Allen, 2 tackles. Now, this is the defensive Allen, not the Bills quarterback. Smoot with 2 tackles, and Mua with 2 tackles. Okay, total yards. 437 for the 49ers, 221 for the Jaguars. Passing yards, 293 to 162 for San Francisco. Rush yards, 144 to 59, also for San Francisco. Time of possession, 33 minutes and 11 seconds for the 49ers, 26 minutes and 49 seconds for the Jags. First downs, 2012 San Francisco. Both teams 4 for 12 on 3rd down. Niners 1 for 2 on 4th down. Jaguars 0 for 1. The Niners had 7 penalties for 90 yards. Jacksonville 5 for 39. San Francisco took 2 sacks for a loss of 9 yards. Jacksonville, meanwhile, took 5 sacks, loss of 28. No fumbles or interceptions for the Niners. 3 punts. Jacksonville, ugly. 2 lost fumbles, 2 interceptions, and 5 punts. Okay, closing line was San Francisco -3. They covered that spread with ease. Over under is 44.5 points. I took the Niners both straight up and against the spread. And the final game we'll look at here in part one is the Tennessee Titans at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who beat the visitors from Nashville 20-6. All right, individual numbers for the Bucs. We'll start off with Baker Mayfield, 18-29, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 102.4 per rating, 3 rushes, 12 yards, 4 yards per rush. White was the leading rusher for Tampa, 20 for 51, only 2.5 yards per run. Edmonds, 4 for 9 yards, 2.3 yards per run. Tompkins, 1 for 6 yards. Kyle Trask, 1 for -1 yard. Leading receiver was Mike Evans, 6 for 143 and a touchdown, 10 targets, 23.8 average. Godwin, 4 catches, 54 yards on 6 targets, 13.5 average. White, 2 grabs, 47 yards and a touchdown, 3 targets, 23.5 average. Palmer, 2 for 21 on 4 targets, 10.5 yards per catch. Cade Otton, 2 for 10 yards, 3 targets, 5 yards per catch. Tompkins, 1 catch, 5 yards, 2 targets. Edmonds, 1 catch, -2 yards, and 1 target. McLaughlin, 2 for 2 on field goals, long was 35, 2 for 2 on extra points. Camarda, 5 punts, 34.2 yards average, 47 is his long, 1 punt inside the 20. Antoine Winfield, 3 tackles, 1 pass defense, and an interception. Levante David, 3 tackles, pass defense. Zach McCullough, 3 tackles, and a pass defense. Cansey, the rookie, with 3 tackles. White, 2 tackles, a sack, and a pass defense. Shaq Barrett, 2 tackles and a sack. Neal, 2 tackles. Tryon Shoyinka, 2 tackles. And Diaby, 2 tackles and a sack. Tennessee Titans, Will Levis, 19-39, 199, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 53.3 passer rating. Derrick Henry held in check, 11 rushes, 24 yards, just 2.2 yards per run. Spears, 5 for 18, 3.6 yards per run. Will Levis ran once for no gain. Phillips is the leading receiver for Tennessee. 3 catches, 61 yards, 5 targets, 20.3 average. Spears, 4 catches, 42 yards, 5 targets, 10.5 average. Okonkwo, 3 catches, 27 yards, 6 tackles, 9 yards average. Same numbers for DeAndre Hopkins, 3 catches, 27 yards on 8 targets, 9 average. Moore, 2 catches, 21 yards on 4 tackles, or rather 4 targets, 10.5 average. Wiley, just 16 yards, 5 targets, 8 yards average. Westbrook Akine, 1 catch, 9 yards, 4 targets. Derrick Henry, 1 catch, -4. Nick Folk, 2 for 3 on field goals, long was 38, no extra points. Stonehouse, 4 punts, 56.8 yards, 62 was his long, 1 touchback, 2 inside the 20-yard line. Moden, the leading tackler for the Titans, he had 6 tackles. Landry, 4 tackles and a sack. Hooker, 4 tackles. McCrary, 4 tackles, 1 pass defense, 1 interception. Garrett, 4 tackles. Peckle, 3 tackles. Autry, 3 tackles. Simmons, 2 tackles and a pass defense. And Tart, 2 tackles and a sack. Okay, total yards, 340 for Tampa Bay, 209 for Tennessee. Passing yards, 263 for the Bucs, 167 for the Titans. Rushing yards, 77 for Tampa Bay. Time of possession, Tampa Bay 31-40, Tennessee 28-20. First downs, 19 for the Bucs, 14 for the Titans. Third down, 6 of 15 Tennessee, 7 of 15 Tampa Bay. 0 for 2 on 4th down were the Titans, no 4th down plays for the Bucs. 5 penalties, 35 yards for the Titans, 7 for 50 yards for Tampa. Tennessee took 4 sacks, loss of 32. Tampa took 3 sacks, loss of 15. No fumbles on either end. 1 interception thrown on both ends. 4 punts for the Titans and 5 for the Bucs. Closing line, Tampa Bay minus 2.5, over under 39.5. I took Tampa Bay both straight up and against the spread. And that's going to do it for part 1 of the week that was, as we looked at Thursday night football, the final international game, and the 6 early games from Sunday. Join me in a little while for part 2 as we'll look at the afternoon games from Sunday, plus Sunday night football between the Jets and Raiders, and Monday night football with the Broncos and Bills. So join me for that in part 2. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell, get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.